Do you know what their favorite book is? Do they know what your favorite book is? Just be able to talk about reading as a process. Not only does it impact their academics, it also will impact things like SAT and ACT scores, but it also just impacts your life, your ability to understand nuance and the implied and the inferred in just talking with people.
Hey everyone, and welcome. I am Morgan Giss McDonald, founder CEO of Paper Raven Books, and I have with us today an author who's written a book for parents. So this book is titled Parents, Are You Ready? The Practical Guide to Launching a Successful High School Student, the 15-Step Roadmap. And to go through this book with us, I have author Kim Duckworth. Kim, thanks for joining us.
Oh, Morgan, thanks for having me on today. And also kudos to your team. This never would have been possible without them. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I have to admit, Kim, even from the first time you and I ever talked, I was like, I need this book, right? I mean, you started telling me about, preparing your high school kids for college and becoming young adults and really having a great life. And I was like, oh my gosh, my kids aren't quite there yet. We're getting closer every year though. And I'm like, Kim, yes, please tell me all the things. So we're very excited to have you come talk to us about this.
Thank you very much. It starts earlier too than you might think. That getting through that high school process starts back in middle school. So that's when the roadmap really starts. Yeah. So then the book really is just speaking to the state of parenting teens today in America. And it really heralds the message of hard work and perseverance, character, rigor in raising teens.
Ah, beautiful. Okay, so kind of walk us through from the beginning. What's this book about? Who did you write it for?
I wrote it. Parenting a teenager is hard, and it's scary. And I wrote it for people that are looking for some help in that process. Through the research, I discovered that the word parent actually comes from the Latin root word peri, meaning to bring forth. And that in itself it's a valiant, but it's an exacting and exhausting job description. So I think we need cheerleaders as parents, especially of teenagers, to really get through that process. So we're entrusted with this essence of light and sound and color and fury and intelligences and curiosities and uniquenesses and attitudes. And some of them come with a lot of attitudes, but we don't have an instruction manual. And heck, we don't even have diagrams. I mean, at least with an IKEA, you get a diagram, but we don't even know what this child is supposed to turn out to be. Yeah. And so the book is to help parents find their child's superpower and help them avoid some of the mistakes that I've seen parents make over the years as owner of Scottsdale Education.
I think that's one of the great things about this book is that there are plenty of parenting books about newborns and those first sort of early years. And then, my oldest is in middle school now. As we get closer to those teen years, it sort of feels like there's a drop off, like a dearth of like, okay, now good luck. But you, Kim, so you are a college admissions coach and the 12-year owner of the Scottsdale Education Center. So you work day in, day out with teens who are headed to college. Is that who you typically work with?
Absolutely. And the parents. And there've been a lot of teary-eyed, hand-wringing parents that I've sat across the desk from. And a lot of them, the ones that end up to be successful, there were certain things that I just saw happening they were doing over and over again that really helped launch their child. And that's what I wanted to share in the book. So it's been that daily interaction with the teens and with the parents that was kind of the brainchild for the book. We actually had many parents come to me and say, can you write that down? Are you going to write a book about this? Because that really helped me. The two-hand handshake at the end of our discussion. So that's kind of the background from where the book, how it was birthed, where it came from.
And why do you think now is especially an important time to be talking about sort of our teens and their success. I mean, what is it about kind of this year, or this sort of age? I almost think of like where our society is now, that you feel like, really now is the time to step into this conversation.
Well, first of all, you can't pick up or view, I don't think, a media source today without seeing something about the state of education. So it's something that's on everyone's mind right now. I think what everyone is learning is you have to pay attention. And it's hard. You've got often two parents working, and it's hard as a parent to be able to juggle all the balls we have to juggle. But I want to just say you have to pay attention. You have to know what they're reading. You have to know kind of what their those important milestones are. So that's where the book came from, is just to tell parents you do need to know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think in describing the book, you have this one paragraph. Does your child have incredible talent and potential, but you don't know how to guide them to be their best or gain admission to their college of choice? Or worse, your child is not living up to their potential. Are you concerned their young adult foundation isn't as solid as it should be? And when I read that, I'm like, I have no idea, really. So I'm wondering, Kim, kind of from your perspective, what do you see parents really struggling with when they come to you? By the time they come to you, it's because they're struggling with something. What do you see in parents?
Yeah, and actually, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of times is they just don't know what direction to go in. And one of the mantras that you'll read in the book is you've got to do stuff. They've got to do stuff. So, and do stuff that they're really interested in, and do it in a deep, obsessive way. They need to read about it, referee it, learn how to create within it. They need to first find what it is that they're really interested in. And the only way they're going to do that is by sampling a lot of different things. But once they've found it, they need to go deep. They need to find that passion in the thing that they're interested in and develop it as a superpower. Every one of us has a superpower, and it's something that we're excellent at. That's our superpower, and we need to first find it by trying a lot of different things, then go deep, and then celebrate it. Just be able to proclaim it and to engage in it and embrace it, and know that's my superpower. And that it's a hard thing to find. I think even as adults, sometimes it's a hard thing to find, but we really need to help our teens find that strength, because it will be a point of strength for them then going forward.
So when you think about finding a teen superpower, it's interesting being a parent of young kids in this generation. I feel like I have failed all four of my children, because not one of them started ballet at age 3, or violin at age 3, or baseball at age 3.
But that's okay. You can find a superpower anytime. And it could be rocks. It could be dinosaur bones. It could be, sometimes they just have to find what it is that makes their heart fly. And they may not know yet. Doing all those things early, they may not know yet. So, but don't let them, I think one of the things that comes from the book, I don't want to see that child graduate from high school and not at least have some idea of where their fire is. And they'll get more of that certainly in college and beyond, but just have a little bit of a direction maybe for fire, and to know where that fire is going to be.
We've seen that when given the opportunity, even teenagers, they find something that they really are attracted to and dive into.
Right. Absolutely.
And then where does college come into this? Do you find that a lot of parents and teens, like, college is do they agree on the path to college? How do you facilitate that conversation?
Well, and absolutely, college is not for everyone. There are a lot of alternatives to college. But I would also say, I don't think at 18 you're necessarily done baking yet. That there's still things that you have to learn, and could be through college, which is fabulous for some people. Could be through a trade school, and that's great for some people. For some people, just getting out and getting a job first and getting their hands dirtied and getting in and doing things, that might be the way to go. I think there are lots of lessons that can be learned in college too, though, while you're still in a little bit of a bubble, just helping your mind grow. And there have been lots of studies that say we really don't reach the top of our rational brains until we're in our maybe mid-20s, hopefully. And so that ability to stay away from bad influences and to make good life decisions, they're not there really a lot of times until they're in their mid-20s. So it's that college space can be a very nice place in that development process. I have 3 daughters, and all 3 of my daughters did go to college. But at the same time, it's not for everyone. So it just depends on that unique essence that you're shepherding as to really what they need to be doing next.
And is that something that you found that you end up facilitating is between teen and parent? Like, is this something that we both want to pursue? Or by the time they, are in this conversation about college, they're both on the same page already?
Yeah, well, I think I think as adults, we know too that goals are very important in life, and plans to reach those goals are very important. And I kind of come from a place where we need a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, because we know sometimes plan A doesn't always work. So what I like to do when a student and a parent comes and they're trying to figure out what to do and which direction to go is to have multiple plans. And if one plan doesn't work, then that's okay. We've got another direction that we can go. So it just gives them options. And I think that's one of the big things as parents. We want our children to have as many options available to them as possible by the time they graduate from high school. So it's that creation of options that hopefully the book also will help parents with.
I love that. And you have a 15-step methodology. And I don't know if it would be best to go through all 15, or if you have kind of a high level way that you can kind of walk us through, like, what does this journey look like with our teens and kind of getting them to that point of optionality?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. And I will synthesize it. I actually have 15 steps for middle school and 15 steps for high school. They're a little different, but I'm going to talk about 5 that I think are really important. The first one is really creating and developing a child's what I call action or lack of action and consequence profile. So really understanding if I don't if I don't study for that test today, guess what? I may not do well in this class. I may not get a good grade, and it's good long term, could impact my ability to either graduate from high school or get into a college, a good school, or play collegiate sports. So helping people understand that there are consequences, children understand there are consequences for actions, is, I think, probably the first one I would want to talk about. Another thing that's important, I think, is this idea of do stuff. Find out what it is that's your superpower, and do stuff that makes sense to what you like to do. Not everyone is good in everything. You don't have to be, but hopefully you can get some depth in something that you are interested in. So doing stuff to find it is important. I think another one would be just this idea of superpower, knowing what your superpower is. And another way to think about it is it's for a child, ask them, what's the last thing you think about before you go to bed at night? What's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning? What was that thing that woke you up in between? That's a passion. It's when it's just always there, always in their mind, always in their brain. But find out what that superpower is. And there's only one you. There's only one child that has that distinct genetic coding and way of thinking and creativities, and just making sure that they are okay with that superpower and being able to embrace that superpower. Another thing would probably be number 4, and this may sound a little funny, but it's just to read. It's reading. I can't tell you how important reading is for a high school student. Parents need to know what their children are reading. Children need to know what their parents are reading. And having parents talk about books with them and suggest a book to them. Reading, I think, can add to what I call a high ceilinged life. And I think you need to support that for your child. And do you know what their favorite book is? Do they know what your favorite book is? Just be able to talk about reading as a process. Not only does it impact their academics, it also will impact things like SAT and ACT scores, but it also just impacts your life, your ability to understand nuance and the implied and the inferred in just talking with people. So the concept of reading to me is very important. And I'll share, I came from a difficult family background myself. And with reading allowed me to do things that I never thought I'd be able to do. So I was able to crash through the jungles of India because of reading, stand in a field in a pre-revolutionary Russia because of reading, just travel down the Amazon because of reading, climb the towers of Notre Dame because of reading. So all of those things made my life help bigger, and I think really helped in my own development. So to read, make sure you know what your teens are reading. And then finally is this idea of maybe planning, having a plan, having goals and aspirations. I would hope that by the time a student can graduate from high school, they have some aspirations in life and some goals. And like I said, with that goal, a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And there are lots of other things, certainly, but those would probably be my big five. And I would add to that things like knowing that you're a parent and not just a friend, because a parent is so much more than that and so much harder than that, but it is what we are tasked to do, challenged to do as a parent. And another one, I think, with just parenting teens particularly is being able to have learned the concept trust, but verify. So originally it was determined for nuclear detente, but trust and verify what that teen is doing.
Oh, so good, Kim. Okay, so I'm taking mental notes. I'm going to go back and read through your book again. But if you guys are thinking, okay, Kim is reading my mind. Good thing is that was 5. There are 10 more. It's 15 steps. So if you want to dive deep, go to paperhavenbooks.com/parents. Are you ready? All one word. You can grab a free copy of the book today. If you have another friend or sibling who is going through similar challenges with a teen, tag them in this post. They can get Parents, Are You Ready? This is the conversation that so many of us, I feel like as parents, like we worry about, and we're not really sure who to talk to about, because sometimes you talk to parents with much older kids and they just sort of say, well, they get through it. Like, okay, but is there anything I can do sort of, on the front end to help them get through it, more easily? And I believe this is that book that gives us a framework to kind of say, what do I need to think about now? What conversations can I go ahead and have with my teens? Even what you just said, Kim, like tell your kids what you're reading and what your favorite books are, so that they know it's not that I'm judging you on whether you're reading or not, but actually I'm really interested in reading too. Do you want to have, a conversation about this? Is a totally different reframe that could make all of my future conversations with my kids about reading different because of that reframe.
Yes, absolutely.
So good. So is there anything that you would love to say to parents right now, Kim? Like just, we're tuned in, we're listening, we're like, okay, I have a little bit more hope now than I did before about maybe finding some of these answers. Is there any sort of like encouragement or reassurance that you would give parents, especially of teens today, teens who are kind of growing up in these 2020s years?
Really good question. I think, well, first of all, hang in there. Hang in there. It will happen. They will get through high school. I think I would say trust your heart. I think sometimes no one knows that child. If you're listening, if you're really listening to them, no one knows that child better than you. And I think a lot of times as parents, we hear a lot of conflicting advice on what to do. But I would say, that child, listen to what they're saying to you. And sometimes you listen with your eyes as well as your ears. But I would just say, listen to what they're saying and trust your heart as to what that student is capable of doing. I never underestimate what a child can do, even while they're still in high school. I've seen some just amazing, amazing things. Um, uh, there's some great verses from Into the Woods from my Sondheim that talks about just that your children will listen. Sometimes you don't think they're listening, but they are listening and learning and remembering. So listen to them and they will listen to you.
Mm, that's good. Listen to them and they will listen to you. I think sometimes we just want to talk and they assume that they listen, but listen to them first and they will listen to you. I heard that, Kim. So, you've written this book, right? So you came into this book with some expertise, some experience, some stories from kids and from parents that you really wanted to kind of bring together into a book. What was that writing experience like for you, Kim?
That's an interesting question. I think I've always known I wanted to write a book. I think I would say I have an author's heart, and hopefully I'll write more. I hope to write more. I have a workbook too that I'm working on. I think the process itself, as in reading, for me with writing, when I get in the zone, I would write, and the world goes away. I'm just so focused. Someone could come in the room and talk to me, and I'm not there. I'm in here. I'm in this place. So for me, it was all consuming. Uh, and what I would do usually to write is my husband and I like to go to Colorado. We would go and hike in the morning and in the afternoon sitting by the fire in the den. And then I would just get going and write. And it was a very cathartic thing for me as well, to be able to write it down. Because it's a message I wanted to get out. I think the hardest part for me has been more the promoting and marketing and launching of the book. It's hard for me because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about this message. And unfortunately, with that promoting, nowadays you do have to have some self-promotion as well. And that's hard for me. But I've really always wanted this message to get out so I could help people.
Yeah. I mean, you are the voice of the message. The message has chosen you in some sort of way, right? Like you felt inspired to write the book. You so believe in the book that you're willing to talk about it with other people. I mean, we talk about the flame, that will become the wildfire. It's like, you're the one who's tending the flame and saying this message is important, until it can grow big enough. So you're doing all the right things, Kim. And now that you've kind of been through this process, right? So you've actually, maybe you've thought about being an author for a while, and now you've actually, you had those moments where you sat down and you wrote the book, and now holding the book in your hands. Is there anything that you maybe wish you had known before, or anything that you, there it is. Is there anything that you wish maybe you could tell a younger version of yourself about this process of becoming an author?
I think for me, and this may not be true for everyone, but for me, I had to tell myself to be patient. And really, I needed to have 3 daughters. I needed to go through a business career. I needed to work to help develop and build Scottsdale Education Center and interview thousands of parents. I needed that time to really understand and know what the message was. Patience is not something I was born with. So this process was it was hard for me, but now is the right time. Now was the time to write it. And I think authors perhaps know that at some level when the time is right to write it. And they may know. For some people, it may be much earlier, much at a younger place in life. They may have a more compelling story to tell sooner. But for this book, for me, I needed to wait until I had the experiences that I've had to be able to make this message real.
Yeah. Patience. I mean, I completely agree, whether we're talking about parenting or writing or growing a business or all of them together. I agree. Patience is something that we just are going to cultivate in the process, whether we want to or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Kim, I am so grateful that you have written this book. I think for so many of us whose kids are now approaching middle school and in high school, we feel like we've sort of been left abandoned a little bit. Like, the school was sort of in and out for a while. We're not sure what college is going to look like for our kids necessarily. And I think we're looking for a rope to grab onto. And I believe that your book, Kim, Parents, Are You Ready? I think that's the rope, that's the lifeline that is going to give us something solid to grab onto. So thank you for writing this book, and thank you for having the courage to release it, especially now.
Thank you. Just one comment maybe too on these times with the whole COVID situation. One thing, I've dealt with many, many more children of recent time that are struggling with depression, that are struggling with anxiety. And one thing I know too, and I talk about this briefly kind of in the middle school years, is helping them believe in something bigger than themselves. I think is also another important part of getting through what's going on with COVID right now today. It is a real thing. It's tangible. I hear it, I feel it from these kids on a daily basis, a regular basis. So I would say that's another part of that message, that just having that something bigger than themselves to believe in can also help through these times.
Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. Yeah. Folks, if you feel like we're speaking to you, we're talking into your life situation, please grab a free copy. Parents, Are You Ready? You can go to paperravenbooks.com/parents are you ready, all one word. You can grab a free copy today, even if you're not going to read it, till the weekend or next week. Just go ahead and get it today while you're here and while you're thinking about it, so that you have it ready and loaded. And if you have a friend who is struggling with maybe their kids too, go ahead and tag them, or send this link to them, because we want to get this out to as many parents as possible. All right. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you so much.
And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.